wake up in the back of an ambulance, and I was terrified. My right side was not working. Like, I couldn't move the right side of my body. My legs didn't work. My arm didn't work. They kept asking, "What's your name? What year is it?" When I said 2010, that dude, he just kind of did this big, and I'm like, which one of those did I get wrong? They start putting on the stuff for the EEGs. They're testing my blood every 10, 15 minutes. It's a lot of questions, and nobody's telling me I'm wrong, but I can tell by the way they're asking me that I'm wrong. You have to get the boys to your mom and dad's because they're babies. They're 3 and 18, 8 months, I think. And I'm justifying all this stuff and why she's so late getting here. And she's like, "Tim, the boys are 16 and 13. And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And she's like, "My parents are gone. My parents have passed." "Your mom has passed. It's 2022. She showed me how to unlock my phone, and then that night, my oldest son, who was 3 years old when I went to bed, is now 16. He's a man. We live in a house that I've never seen, in a town I've never heard of. Those first 3 days in the hospital were probably some of the most mind-numbing feelings I've ever had, where you don't know who you are. There's so much that I still have not processed. I haven't processed the death of my mom or the death of my in-laws or certain things that have happened. I just can't take myself there right now because this other stuff's so heavy. I can't go to these places. Self-preservation, And I laid on the bed and I kind of snapped my fingers and called the dog, and he kind of rubbed his head under my hand, and I went to sleep. And I woke up 12 years later in the back of an ambulance. And all of that's gone. Every second of it's gone. I haven't had a single memory from that time come back at all. Not a whisper of a memory. Everybody wants to let you know that they care. Mm-hmm. And they don't always know how to express that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Do. And they're afraid that if they don't say something, that you're gonna think they don't care. Yeah. But they don't want to say anything because they don't want to offend you or bring up, bad feelings and stuff. So there was a lot of that. Mm-hmm. A good solid 2 months of that. There's no signs of a stroke. There's no signs of a seizure. Those markers never showed up in my body. It was like my body just had a conversation with the brain, and the brain's like, "Dude, you're on your own," and just shut down. And that's 2 years on now. I've had neurologists and pathologists and you name it. All these people looking, they've looked to see if I have, early onset Parkinson's because my hands weren't working and all this other stuff. And so the medical stuff, we've talked about before. Man, it's so depressing that they can't find a reason that this happened. But what I found in a lot of doctors is they're not necessarily interested in finding the reason it happened. Mm. The big part of all of this is the depression. And that's what kind of prompted me to start doing these things and be a little bit more proactive. So the depression started probably Monday or Tuesday after the accident. So, those first couple of days you're just numb. And then it just starts to kind of creep in. And I had never suffered from depression before. One of the hardest part about having depression and suffering from depression is trying to tell people what depression's like if they don't have it.
Right. You can't.
It's one of those things that you can never do it justice.
No.
It's a terrible thing, and there's no way to express that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 5 minutes left on the cigar. I'm like, just give me a minute, I'll be in. And boy, as soon as that sliding door shut, this monster just creeped up on my shoulder. And I've expressed it several times. It's a shadow that just sits just in your peripheral. It's just this. It's as if that mass is just taunting you, just sitting there. I know that it's not real, but it's real to me. It's sitting there. And as soon as she walked in, this dude on my shoulder really just introduced himself. And those thoughts came through so heavy and so hard and so fast. Kill yourself. Jump. What are you doing? In the pain. In the suffering. It was this battle with myself not to jump, to the point where I kind of snapped into a place where I realized I was standing, not over the edge, but I had gotten up from the chair and walked over to the ledge, and it was terrifying. And luckily I snapped back and realized what the hell was going on, and I threw the cigar down and I went inside. And that's really when the depression was there, but this is when the suicidal thoughts started, and they came hard and fast, and they haven't left. I had my first disassociative episode. Let me tell you something, that is a trippy thing to do. Angel and I were sitting on the front seat of the bus, and all of a sudden it was almost like a movie where it just kind of sucks you to the back of the bus, and your vision is nothing but you sitting in that bus seat. It's like you're watching yourself from a distance, like a casual observer of your own life. The guy you're fighting is you. Yeah. And he knows everything about you that you hate about you, and he will use it. And I said, yeah, but just seeing a psychiatrist, it has this, whatever. He's like, Tim, I can name 10 or 12 people off the top of my head that we're all close with that seek help. And after that, I went, I think, it was a couple days later, I called and I tried to get some help. I was spending 20 hours a day in bed. I would go to bed. I'd wake up in time to help the boys get up and get to bed, because, I didn't want to miss any time with them, because I feel like I already missed forever. Then as soon as they were gone, I was right back on the bed. It was the space between the bed and the wall. And sometimes I would just lay there. It just was a different place to drown your sorrows. It was just a different place to be miserable. I think you said sometimes you only get up long enough to get yourself tired so you can go back to bed. Yeah. So I had those two places where I would crash. I'd make sure I was up at 3 o'clock, 3:30, so when the boys came home from school, they didn't see me still in bed. Mm-hmm. I would quickly throw the sheets over the bed to make it look like I had done something. Yep. Brush my teeth real quick, and then as soon as they went to bed, I was back in bed. So it was, 18, 20 hours a day just in bed. Yeah. And just the most miserable part of my life. When you don't want to give away that shit, you put on that smile. Yeah. And it's so fake. Yeah. And it's so exhausting, Yeah. I had a friend say, oh man, it's nice to see you're feeling better. I didn't have the heart to tell him, nothing's changed, dude. Yeah. I just put a smile on for you guys. She was happy and all this, and then she's asking me how I'm doing, and I'm being honest with her, and I can just see the joy is just leaving her body, because the weight of what I'm sharing with her is just too heavy. Yeah. And she still wants that. We've talked. She still wants, because I think she knows how therapeutic it is to get that off my chest. But that's when I really kind of closed the door to most people. When just give them the "I'm good, how are you?" Yes. Because it's easier. Because I think you can give the pain away just as you can give joy away. So the idea of ketamine, dude, you gotta be kidding me. Because you hear all these different explanations of what it does. It's it can be this really euphoric, amazing experience. It could be nothing, where you just take a nap, or it can be this mind-blowing psychedelic trip. And that's what everybody's telling you. There's so much just variations on that. So I went way outside my comfort zone and asked if I could try that. And I got hooked up with a doctor at the local UW here, and I started those treatments. And I was terrified because, like I said, I've never done anything like. My vice is Diet Mountain Dew. There's a little lamp that, before you take the esketamine, if you turn the lights off and just had this lamp on, you would barely notice the lamp is there. But on that third dose, it might as well be a spotlight in that room. It is the brightest. It feels like a surgical amphitheater where it's just these bright lights, and it's just coming from this tiny little flicker of light. But So you sit there for about 2 hours, and they come in periodically and check your blood pressure. But for me, it's kind of funny. There's ketamine dreams on YouTube. You sit in church for an hour and you're all pious and singing Kumbaya, and as soon as the old lady cuts you off as you're pulling out, you're swearing up a storm. How dare you pull in front of me? I got to get to the Packer game or something stupid like that. Like,
sure.
I've tried to eliminate those kind of things, and also reconnecting with you has been a big indicator that I needed to change a couple things. I look at you, Jon, and I'm like, that dude is so at peace with himself. Whether it's the avatar or not.
That's the avatar.
Yeah, but it's just to meet people like you and give them their space and realize how important they are in that space. One of the big things for me was sitting on the bed when I first got out of the hospital, sitting on the bed with my oldest son, and we would just spend hours going through photos on my phone, photos on his phone.
How did that make you feel?
Yeah, it hurt. It hurt bad because they're the most formative time in their lives, and as a dad, you want to be there. I lost my dad when I was 5, so I don't really remember him. So those pictures that I see kind of become those memories of him. So there's one photo that's just of him a couple months before he died. Him and his brother are throwing chicken on a Weber. And there's no way in hell I remember being there. So I would have been 4 years old. But I've seen that picture so many times. I've heard my uncles talk about it, that it becomes my memory, and that's kind of what's happening now. When this all started, I was offered a position for therapy, and I turned it down because I knew that there were some kids who needed her time more than I did. I had to let myself be aware that, dude, you got to suck it up a little, and I would rather suffer than have some kids suffer because of some of the things they were going through. And she works with kids, and
you matter too, Tim. You
no,
you deserve
I get that, but
that time, and you need that time, and it's okay. It's
absolutely,
okay.
And I get that too. And part of the other thing too is when we talk about this stuff, it's hard for me to accept that I'm.
Of course,
it's okay to not be okay. It's
That's
okay.
That's why I can tell you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
You deserve it, Tim.
I appreciate it.
Sure.
Along with the suicidal thoughts, I have these little visions and stuff, and trying to drown them out is exhausting, but it's doable. And if those things, hundreds a day, if you can silence them, maybe you can silence some of the other stuff. But that kind of brings us full circle into this. This is therapy for me. I don't. It's just going to be some people who disagree, but I don't necessarily like talking about this stuff. If you ask me, sure, but I would rather hear about your journey, where you are in your life, and it's so therapeutic to hear somebody else struggles. And I know that's a weird way to say that, but to hear that somebody else struggles in the same way you struggle makes it a little easier for you to realize you're not in it by yourself.
Absolutely.
And the most alive I feel is when I'm talking to people about this kind of stuff. And even though it's a really heavy topic, I try to have fun with it. I know it's kind of a weird thing to say, but I don't want to be depressed. I just am.
Got to keep the lights on in the dark.
I think you have to be aware of where you are.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the last 2 years, I've been in a place that sucks. There's a lot of people who can't talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe if they hear 2 people talking about it, then it's a little easier for them to maybe open up about it.